You know, when you live as long as I have, you start to think you've made peace with everything, that the weight of your choices, the secrets you've buried, they all just settle into your bones and become part of who you are. But I'm here to tell you tonight, some secrets don't settle. Some secrets claw at your insides every single day until you can barely breathe. And I need to tell someone. I need to say this out loud before I take it to my grave. My name is Savannah. I'm 70 years old, and I've been living a lie for over 50 years. Let me take you back, way back, to a time when things were simpler, or at least that's what people like to say. It was the early 70s. I was just a girl living in a small farming village with my mama, my daddy, and my older sister Harper. We didn't have much. Lord knows we didn't. But we had each other. And back then, that felt like enough. The kind of poverty where you shared one bar of soap between 4 people, where you wore hand-me-downs until they were more patched than fabric. But there was love in that little house. I swear there was. Harper was my whole world back then. She was 5 years older than me, beautiful in that effortless way some women are, dark hair that caught the sunlight, a smile that could make anyone feel safe. When she was 21, she married a man from the city, Richard. He was wealthy, or at least wealthy compared to us. He owned a small manufacturing business, wore pressed suits even on Sundays, drove a car that actually started every time you turned the key. Harper thought she'd won the lottery. Mama cried tears of joy at that wedding. She thought her daughter was set for life. But money doesn't buy happiness, and it sure as hell doesn't buy babies. Harper got pregnant twice in those first 3 years. Both times, she lost them. I remember the phone calls, the way Mama's face would crumble when she hung up the receiver. The second time it happened, Harper came home for a week. She looked like a ghost. Her eyes were hollow. Her hands shook when she tried to drink her coffee. She told me she felt empty, like God had carved out her insides and left nothing but an echo. Richard started to change after that. The pressure he put on her, it was cruel, vicious. Even, he told her flat out that if she couldn't give him a child, he'd find someone who could. Can you imagine telling your wife, the woman you promised to love, in sickness and in health, that she was replaceable because her body failed her? Harper was desperate, broken. And that desperation, it set the stage for everything that came after. Now, around that same time, something happened in our village. A young engineer came to town. The county was planning to build a new bridge over the creek, and they sent this man to survey the land, do the measurements, all that technical stuff. His name was Michael. I remember the first time I saw him. He was standing by the general store, looking at a map, and when he glanced up and smiled at me, I swear my heart stopped. I was 18 years old, just 18. I'd never been kissed, never held hands with a boy, never even been off the property except to go to church on Sundays. And here was this man, probably 25 or 26, with sandy blonde hair and these green eyes that seemed to look right through you. He was educated, worldly. He'd been to college, traveled to different states. When he talked, he made you feel like you were the only person in the world. He started coming around more, said he liked the quiet of our village, said it reminded him of simpler times. He'd sit on our porch in the evenings, drinking sweet tea Mama made, asking me questions about my life, my dreams. No one had ever done that before. No one had ever made me feel like I mattered. Looking back now, I can see it clear as day. He was just bored, lonely, looking for entertainment while he was stuck in some backwater town for a few months. But back then, I thought it was love. One evening in late August, he kissed me behind the barn. My first kiss. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst right out of my chest. He told me I was beautiful, special, that he'd never met anyone like me. And I believed every single word. It happened twice, just twice, in the hayloft, with the summer heat making everything feel dreamlike and unreal. He promised me things, said when his work was done, he'd take me with him. We'd get married. I'd see the world. I held on to those promises like they were gospel. Then, just like that, he was gone. Left town 2 weeks later without a word. No goodbye, no forwarding address, nothing. I waited by that road every single day for a month, thinking maybe he'd come back for me, that maybe he just got called away suddenly and would send for me. But deep down, I knew I'd been used, discarded, left behind like I was nothing. And then, I missed my monthly cycle. The panic that set in, I can't even describe it. This was 1973, you understand. In our village, in our family, this was the worst thing that could happen to a girl. Worse than death, in some ways, because death is final. Shame lives on. It stains everything it touches. When I finally worked up the courage to tell Mama, she slapped me across the face so hard I tasted blood. Daddy wouldn't even look at me. For 3 days, they barely spoke to me. They talked about me, around me, like I wasn't even there, like I was a problem to be solved. Not their daughter who was scared out of her mind. The solution they came up with was simple: abortion. There was a woman 2 towns over who did that sort of thing, quietly, for a price. They scraped together the money, set the appointment. I was supposed to go on a Saturday morning, but I couldn't do it. The shame I felt was overwhelming, crushing. But there was something else too, something deep inside me that whispered this baby was innocent, that I couldn't punish a child for my mistakes. I told Mama I wouldn't go. She cried, she begged me, she told me I was ruining my life, ruining our family's name, but I stood firm for the first time in my life. That's when Harper showed up. She'd heard about my situation. Mama had called her in desperation, hoping Harper could talk some sense into me. But Harper, my sweet Harper, she sat down beside me on my bed, took my hands in hers, and said something I never expected. "Savannah," she said, and her voice was soft but urgent. What if you had this baby, but you let me raise it? Richard and I, we could say it's ours. It would save your reputation. You could move on with your life, and it would save my marriage." At first, I didn't understand. I was confused, scared, but she explained it carefully. She'd tell Richard she was pregnant. I'd go stay with her for the last few months, hidden away from prying eyes. When the baby came, it would be registered as hers. No one would ever know. It was perfect. A solution that saved everyone. Everyone except me. But what choice did I have? I was 18, unmarried, penniless. The father was long gone. If I kept that baby, I'd be an outcast forever. My child would be called a bastard, treated like trash. Harper could give the baby a good life, a father, a real home, money, opportunities I could never provide. So I said yes. I moved into Harper's house when I was 6 months along. Richard was overjoyed. He treated Harper like a queen again. She glowed with happiness, rubbing my belly like it was hers, talking about nursery colors and baby names. And me, I just existed. I wasn't a mother, I was an incubator, a means to an end. Those 3 months living in Harper's house were the strangest of my life. I was hidden away like a shameful secret, which I suppose I was. Harper told her neighbors and friends that her younger sister was staying with her to help prepare for the baby's arrival. During the day, I'd help around the house, cook meals, fold tiny clothes that would never be mine to put on my child. At night, I'd lie in the guest bedroom, feeling the baby kick and roll inside me, and I'd whisper to her, yes, her. Somehow I knew it was a girl. I'd tell her I was sorry, that I wished things could be different, that I hoped she'd have a beautiful life, even if I couldn't be the one to give it to her. Richard barely acknowledged me during those months. I think he saw me as a necessary embarrassment, someone to be tolerated until he got what he wanted. Harper tried to be kind, but there was an awkwardness between us that hadn't been there before. She was taking my child. We both knew it, and no amount of sisterly love could make that feel right. Labor came on a cold February night. 36 hours of agony. When they finally placed that baby in my arms, I looked down at her tiny face, her perfect little fingers, and my entire world shifted. She had a small birthmark on her left shoulder, shaped like a crescent moon. She had my nose, my chin. When she opened her eyes for just a moment, they were dark blue, unfocused, searching. I held her for maybe 15 minutes. That's all they gave me. 15 minutes to memorize every detail, to smell her skin, to feel her weight, to whisper, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. into her soft hair. I counted her fingers, her toes. I touched that little birthmark and thought, this is how I'll always know you. This is the mark that proves you're mine. Then Harper reached out, and I had to hand her over. I watched my sister leave that hospital room with my daughter. And something inside me broke that never healed. They named her Emma. I went back to the village a week later. Everyone was told I'd been helping Harper during her pregnancy. When people asked how my sister and the baby were doing, I smiled and said they were wonderful. I became an expert at smiling when I was dying inside. The first year was the hardest. Every milestone Emma hit felt like a knife to my heart. Her first smile, her first tooth, her first Christmas. Harper would call and tell me everything, excited and proud, not realizing that every detail was torture. I wanted to be happy for her. I tried, but how do you celebrate someone else raising your child? I visited as often as I could without seeming strange. Once a month, I'd take the bus to the city and spend the weekend at Harper's house. I'd hold Emma, feed her, sing to her, and then I'd have to leave. Every single time, it felt like dying. On the bus ride home, I'd press my face against the window and cry silently, watching the city fade into the distance, taking my daughter with it. Emma grew up calling Harper Mama and me Aunt Savannah. I watched her take her first steps, heard her say her first words, attended every birthday party, every school play, every graduation, and the whole time, I had to pretend. I had to act like I was just the doting aunt, not the woman who gave her life, who still woke up at night sometimes, reaching for a baby that was never in my arms. When Emma was 5, she went through a phase where she was obsessed with families. She'd draw pictures of Mama, Daddy, and herself. Sometimes she'd draw me too, off to the side, labeled Aunt Savannah in her crooked child's handwriting. I still have one of those drawings. I've kept it in a box under my bed for 46 years. Some nights, when the loneliness gets too heavy, I take it out and stare at it, wondering what she would have drawn if she'd known the truth. Harper was a good mother. I have to give her that. She loved Emma fiercely. She stayed up with her when she was sick, helped her with homework, taught her how to braid her hair. Richard softened, too, became a real father. He taught Emma to ride a bike, went to all her soccer games, walked her down the aisle at her wedding. Emma had everything I could never have given her. Piano lessons, a college education, vacations to places I'd only seen in magazines. She became a teacher, married a kind man named David, had 2 children of her own, beautiful kids, my grandchildren, though they call me Great Aunt Savannah. But there were moments, small moments, that only I noticed, where I could see myself in her. The way she tilted her head when she was thinking, the way she laughed with her whole body, the way she bit her lower lip when she was nervous. These little echoes of me, living in her. Proof that I wasn't just imagining our connection. When Emma was 16, she came to visit me in the village. It was summer, and Harper thought it would be good for her to experience country life. We spent 2 weeks together, just the 2 of us. We'd wake up early and walk through the fields. I'd show her where I used to play as a child, the creek where I'd catch tadpoles, the old oak tree where I'd carved my initials. One evening, we were sitting on the porch watching the sunset, and she leaned her head on my shoulder and said, "Aunt Savannah, I wish I could live here with you forever. You make me feel peaceful." I almost told her then. The words were right there on the edge of my tongue, but I swallowed them down, because what right did I have to disrupt her peace with my truth? Through it all, I kept the secret. Harper and I made a pact that night in the hospital, and we never spoke of it again. Not once. Even when we were alone together, we never acknowledged what really happened. It was like if we didn't say it out loud, we could pretend it wasn't true. But I think Harper knew. I think she saw the pain in my eyes every time I looked at Emma. Sometimes, I'd catch her watching me with this expression of guilt and sadness, but we never talked about it. We just carried on. I went on with my life as best I could. I never married. Oh, I had opportunities. There were men who showed interest over the years. Good men. There was a farmer named Thomas who courted me for nearly 2 years. He was patient, kind, never pushed me for answers when I'd go quiet and distant. He asked me to marry him twice. Both times I said no. How could I say yes? How could I stand at an altar and promise forever when I was living the biggest lie imaginable? How could I build a life with someone when the most important part of me was hidden away? Thomas eventually married someone else. I heard he had 3 children. Sometimes I wonder what my life would have been like if I'd been brave enough to say yes. If I'd been able to move forward instead of staying frozen in that moment when I handed my baby to my sister. I threw myself into work instead. I became a seamstress, working from home, altering clothes for people in the village and neighboring towns. It gave me something to do with my hands, a way to fill the endless empty hours. I became known for my wedding dresses. Isn't that ironic? A woman who never married, who gave away her only child, spending her days creating beautiful gowns for brides full of hope and dreams. I poured all my love, all my unspent maternal energy into those dresses. Every stitch was perfect. Every hem was exactly right, because if I couldn't give that kind of care to my own daughter, at least I could give it to something. Emma got married when she was 20. She asked Harper to help her choose her wedding dress, of course, but she also asked me to make her veil. She said she wanted something handmade, something special, something with love sewn into it. I worked on that veil for 3 months. I used the finest lace I could find, embroidered tiny flowers along the edge, each one representing a year of her life. When I gave it to her, she cried and hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. She said, "Aunt Savannah, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I'll treasure it forever." I stood in the back of the church during her wedding ceremony, watching her walk down the aisle on Richard's arm. She was so beautiful it hurt to look at her, and I thought about how it should have been me, not giving her away, but at least standing up there with the family, as her mother. But I was relegated to the back. Just another guest. Just the aunt who made the veil. After the ceremony, during the reception, Emma pulled me aside. We were in a quiet corner of the hall, away from the music and laughter. She held both my hands and said, "Aunt Savannah, I know I don't say this enough, but you mean the world to me. You've always been there for me. You've always made me feel special and loved. I don't know what I'd do without you in my life." I wanted to tell her then, God, how I wanted to tell her, but it was her wedding day. How could I shatter her happiness with the truth? So instead, I just hugged her and said, "You deserve all the love in the world, sweet girl. You deserve everything good." When Emma had her first child, a daughter she named Sophie, I was in the hospital waiting room with everyone else. Harper got to be in the delivery room. Harper got to be the first one to hold that baby after Emma and David. When they finally brought Sophie out for everyone to meet, I held her in my arms and looked down at her tiny face. And I saw Emma, my daughter. And this was my granddaughter, my blood, but I couldn't say it. I could never say it. Sophie's birth stirred something in me that I'd tried to bury. It made me confront what I'd given up in a whole new way, because now there was another generation, another piece of me walking around in the world, and still, I had to stay silent. I went home that night and cried harder than I had in years. Great, gulping sobs that shook my whole body. I grieved not just for the daughter I'd given away, but for the grandmother I could never truly be. The years continued to pass. Emma had a second child, a son named Jack. I watched both of those children grow up, just like I'd watched Emma grow up. I babysat them, read them stories, taught Sophie how to sew, and Jack how to make my special apple pie. They loved me, called me auntie with such affection it made my heart swell and break at the same time. But they didn't know. They didn't know that the blood running through their veins came from me. Harper died 8 years ago, breast cancer. It was quick, brutal, from diagnosis to death in 7 months. In her final days, when the morphine made her brave, she looked at me and whispered, "You should tell her, Savannah. She deserves to know." I held her hand and cried. "I can't," I said. "I can't do that to her, to us." Harper shook her head weakly. "It's not about us anymore. It never should have been. Tell her the truth. Let her decide what to do with it." But then she was gone, and I was left alone with this secret that felt heavier than ever. At Harper's funeral, Emma sobbed in my arms. She told me she didn't know how she'd go on without her mother, and I held her, comforting her, while inside I was screaming, I'm your mother. I'm right here. I've always been here. After Harper died, Richard moved to Florida to be near his brother. He sold the house, packed up his life, and left. Emma was devastated to see the house go, but she understood. Too many memories, too much grief. I helped her go through Harper's things, packing up decades of life into boxers. We found photo albums filled with pictures of Emma growing up. In almost every photo, Harper looked radiant with motherly pride. And I was there too, in the background, watching, always watching. Emma found an old jewelry box that had belonged to Harper. Inside was a locket with a picture of baby Emma on one side and a picture of me on the other. Emma held it up, confused. "Why would Mom have a picture of you in her locket?" she asked. My heart stopped. I fumbled for an explanation. "We were very close," I said. She knew how much I loved you, how much you meant to me." Emma smiled through her tears. "You were like a second mom to me growing up, Aunt Savannah. I think that's why Mom knew how special our bond was. If only she knew how right she was." Emma is 51 years old now. She has her own grandchildren. Sophie had twin girls last year. Jack has a son who just turned 3. These are my great-grandchildren. Children I should be rocking on my knee while telling them about their family history, their real family history. But instead, I'm Great Aunt Savannah. I'm one step removed, always on the periphery, never at the center where I belong. Last Thanksgiving, the whole family gathered at Emma's house, all her children, their spouses, the grandkids. It was chaos in the best way. Emma looked so happy, so fulfilled, surrounded by all this love and family. At one point, she stood up and made a toast. She thanked David for being her rock. She thanked her kids for making her proud. And then she said, "And thank you to my Aunt Savannah, who has been a constant presence in my life since the day I was born. I don't know what I did to deserve such a wonderful aunt, but I'm grateful for you every single day." Everyone raised their glasses to me. Emma blew me a kiss, and I smiled and nodded. But inside, I was crumbling, because I wanted to stand up and shout the truth. I wanted to say, "You don't need to thank me for being there. I'm your mother." This is what mothers do. They show up. They love, they watch and wait and ache in silence for a lifetime. But I didn't say anything. I never do. And now I'm running out of time. I can feel it. My heart isn't what it used to be. The doctor says I've had a couple of small heart attacks in the past year. Warning shots, he calls them. He's put me on medication, told me to reduce stress, to take it easy. But how do you take it easy when you're carrying 50 years of grief? How do you reduce stress when every day you wake up knowing you're living a lie? I lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, and I think about what happens when I die. What happens to this secret then? Does it die with me? Does Emma go her whole life never knowing the truth about where she came from? Never knowing that the aunt who loved her maybe a little too much was actually the woman who brought her into this world? Part of me thinks I should just let it go, that some secrets are meant to be kept, that telling her now would be selfish, would only ease my conscience at the expense of destroying everything she believes about her life. She loved Harper, mourned her deeply. What right do I have to taint those memories? What right do I have to make her question everything she thought she knew about her family, her identity, herself? She's built a whole life on the foundation of believing Harper was her mother. If I pull that foundation out from under her, what happens? Does she crumble? Does she resent me for waiting so long? Does she feel betrayed not just by me, but by Harper too? By everyone who knew and stayed silent? But then another part of me, the mother part that never got to exist, that part is screaming. It's demanding to be acknowledged. Just once, just one time before I leave this earth, I want my daughter to know that I'm her mother, that I didn't abandon her, that I loved her from the moment I knew she existed, that every birthday wish I made, every prayer I said, every penny I saved and secretly gave to Harper to buy Emma something nice, it was all from a place of desperate, aching love. I think about medical history too. What if Emma needs to know where she really came from for health reasons? What if one of her children, or her grandchildren, develops something genetic? They'd need to know the truth then. They'd need complete medical information, and right now, they don't have it. They think they come from Harper's line, but they don't. They come from mine. I look at those grandchildren of hers, my biological great-grandchildren, and I see pieces of myself in them. The way little Rosie wrinkles her nose when she laughs. The way Jasper is left-handed, just like I am. The way baby Oliver has that same crescent moon birthmark on his shoulder that Emma has, that I gave to her. They're my blood, my legacy. And they'll never know. Is it wrong that I want them to know? Is it selfish? I've started thinking about what I'd even say if I did tell her. How do you start that conversation? Do you just blurt it out? Do you ease into it? Do you show her evidence, like birth records that might still exist somewhere? Or do you just trust that she see the truth in your eyes, hear it in your voice? I imagine 1,000 different scenarios. Sometimes I imagine she'd be understanding. She'd hug me and cry and say she forgives me, that she understands I did what I thought was best. Other times I imagine her anger, her rage at being lied to for 50 years, her sense of betrayal, her questions that I might not have good answers for. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Why did you let me call you aunt? How could you watch me mourn Harper when you knew the truth? How could you be so selfish? And I don't know. I don't know which version of Emma would show up if I told her. I don't know if our relationship would survive it. And that terrifies me, because as painful as this secret is, at least I have her in my life. At least I get to see her, talk to her, be part of her world. If I tell her and she rejects me, I'll lose even that. I'll lose the only connection I have to my daughter. Last month, Emma called me on a Sunday afternoon, like she always does. We were chatting about normal things, the weather, her garden, how the grandkids were doing in school, and then, out of nowhere, she said, "Aunt Savannah, have you ever had any regrets? Like, big ones, things you wish you'd done differently?" My breath caught in my throat. For a moment, I wondered if somehow she knew, if Harper had left a letter, or if she'd pieced it together on her own. But then she continued, "I was just thinking about how I never pursued teaching music, even though I loved it. I went the safe route with elementary education, and now I wonder what my life would have been like if I'd been braver." I told her that we all have regrets, that life is about making the best choices we can with the information we have at the time. And even as I said it, I heard the hypocrisy in my own words, because my biggest regret isn't about a career path or a missed opportunity. My biggest regret is sitting on the other end of the phone from my daughter, pretending to be something I'm not. After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen and stared at the phone for an hour. I thought about calling her back, about asking her to come visit, about finally telling her the truth, but I couldn't make my fingers dial the number. I don't have anyone else to ask. Mama and Daddy are long gone. Harper took her blessing to tell the truth to her grave. Emma's husband doesn't know. Her children don't know. No one knows but me. And the weight of it is crushing me. I started writing letters, different versions of the truth, trying to find the right words to explain everything. I have a whole drawer full of them now. Letters that start with "My dearest Emma" and "My darling daughter," and to the child I've loved from afar. But every time I read them back, they sound either too cold or too desperate, too clinical or too emotional. How do you distill 50 years of love and loss and longing into words on a page? How do you explain the inexplicable? One letter starts, "I need to tell you something that will change everything you know about your life. I'm not your aunt. I'm your mother. I gave birth to you in February of 1974. And then I gave you to Harper because I was young and scared, and everyone told me it was the right thing to do. I've regretted it every day since." Another one tries to be gentler. "There's a truth I've carried for your entire life, and I think it's time you knew it. You are my daughter. You came from my body, from my love, even if you grew up calling someone else Mama. Harper loved you with everything she had, but you began with me. But none of them feel right. None of them capture what I need to say, and I'm running out of time to find the perfect words. My health is declining. I can feel it. The tiredness that doesn't go away no matter how much I sleep. The shortness of breath. The aching in my chest that I know isn't just heartbreak, though God knows there's plenty of that too. The doctor has started using words like limited time and getting your affairs in order. He doesn't say how limited, months, maybe, a year if I'm lucky. I need to decide, soon. Do I take this secret to my grave? Do I leave it buried with me, let it turn to dust along with my bones? Or do I crack open this truth and let it spill out? Consequences be damned. What would you do? If you were me, if you'd lived with this lie for 50 years, if you knew you were running out of chances, would you tell? Would you risk everything for the possibility of being known as who you really are? Or would you protect the people you love from a truth that might destroy them? That's why I'm here tonight, talking to you, strangers who know nothing about me except what I've just shared. Maybe you can see this more clearly than I can. Maybe you have wisdom I'm too close to the situation to possess. Maybe you've been through something similar. Or maybe you're someone who found out a secret late in life and you can tell me how it felt, how you survived it. My channel editors, these wonderful people who've helped me share my story, they've promised me something that brings me both comfort and terror. They've promised that if I pass before I can tell Emma myself, they'll make sure she gets this recording, that she hear, in my own words, what really happened, who she really is, where she really came from, that she see her mother's face, hear her mother's voice, speaking the truth that was locked away for a lifetime. But is that fair? To drop this truth on her when I'm not even here to answer her questions, to hold her if she breaks, to explain myself, to look her in the eyes and tell her how sorry I am, how much I've always loved her. I'm running out of time to decide. I can feel it in my bones, in the way my body is slowly giving up, in the way each day feels more precious and more painful than the last. And I'm scared. I'm so scared of making the wrong choice again, because I've already made so many wrong choices. I chose to believe a man who was lying to me. I chose to trust him with my heart and my body. I chose to stay quiet when I should have fought harder to keep my baby. I chose to live with this lie for 50 years. How do I know that whatever I choose now won't be another terrible mistake? So I'm asking you, please, if you've been through something like this, if you've carried a secret that changed everything, if you've had to choose between painful truth and comfortable lies, tell me what I should do. Leave a comment, share your thoughts, share your stories, help an old woman figure out how to navigate the biggest decision of her life in what might be the final chapter. Should I tell Emma the truth? Should I sit her down and say, I'm not your aunt, I'm your mother, that birthmark on your shoulder, that's how I've always known you. Every time I held you, every time I looked at you, I saw the piece of me that I gave away. Should I tell her about Michael, about how young and stupid and naive I was, about how Harper and I made a choice that seemed right at the time but has haunted me every single day since? Or should I take this secret to my grave and let her keep the version of her life she's always known? The one where Harper is her mother, and I'm just the aunt who loved her maybe a little too much. What about Sophie and Jack? Don't they deserve to know where they really come from? Don't those beautiful great-grandchildren deserve to know their true lineage? Or would knowing only hurt them? Please, I'm begging you, tell me what to do, because I don't think my heart can carry this weight much longer. And whether I have days or months or years left, I need to decide. I need to know if dying with the truth, unspoken, would be mercy or the final, unforgivable betrayal. Would telling her be an act of love, or would it be the most selfish thing I could do? Would I be giving her a gift, the truth about where she came from? Or would I be taking something away from her, the memory of the mother she loved and lost? I need your help. I need your wisdom. I need to know that whatever choice I make, I'm not alone in it, that someone out there understands what it's like to carry something this heavy for this long. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sitting with me through this whole messy, painful story. Thank you for caring about an old woman's burden. Your words might be the thing that finally helps me find peace, or at least helps me find the courage to do what's right. Whatever that is, please, leave a comment. Tell me your thoughts. Share your experiences. Help me figure out how this story should end, because I'm out of time, and I'm out of strength, and I need someone to help me see the path forward. God bless you all, and please, please, Don't let my story end without your voice in it. Time is running out, and I need your help to figure out whether truth or silence is the greatest act of love I can give my daughter before I go.